Hey, welcome to What's the Tea, the TransLink Podcast. I'm your host, John Jang. Here's what's coming up on this episode. Where does the SkyTrain sleep at night? And why does it matter? Let's tap in to What's the Tea.
The next station is...
Welcome to What's the Tea, the TransLink Podcast.
In the very first episode of What's the Tea, back in Season 1, we answered one of the most popular questions that customers like you have been asking for a long time: why doesn't the SkyTrain run 24 hours? And while I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't heard that episode yet, here's just a little snippet from that episode.
It's the simple answer to a complex question, but in order to operate our trains and our tracks safely for our traveling public, we need that downtime to basically get into both the trains, the rolling stock, as well as into the track and guideway areas.
So if the SkyTrain doesn't run 24 hours in Metro Vancouver, it does bring us to the next question. Where does the SkyTrain sleep at night?
I'm taking a nap.
You want to take a nap?
I'm taking a nap here.
Okay, take a nap right there then.
Good night.
The answer is simultaneously simple and complex. SkyTrain cars do indeed have a home, but as you know, we're working on expanding our SkyTrain fleet with brand new shiny Mark 5s. That means we're making some upgrades.
The next station is... The next station is...
Now I like dollars, I like diamonds, I like...
Tassia Balding is the Director of Capital and Major Business Projects at BC Rapid Transit Company, or SkyTrain. That means Tassia is uniquely qualified to answer the question, where do SkyTrain cars sleep at night, and how does it play into our SkyTrain expansion program?
It is at our operations and maintenance centers. Short answer, big picture answer. They don't totally sleep, but...
That's fair. Yeah.
But if we thought of it as sleeping, it would be at our operations and maintenance centers. We have 3 of them of varying sizes, only to store trains. So OMC1, which is our primary maintenance and operations facility, here at Edmonds, where we're sitting today.
That's right.
And then OMC 3, which is in Coquitlam. It came on board as part of the Evergreen line, and then we extended a little bit after that.
Right.
For more storage.
And we know that OMC 4 is going to be the newest sort of addition to the operation and maintenance centers that exist for SkyTrain. Explain a little bit about this project and how it's going to help benefit a lot of the major programs that are going to be part of SkyTrain moving forward as well.
Okay, great. So OMC4 is a brand new full maintenance facility. So taking care of our train maintenance, the rolling stock maintenance that we're talking about now, like where does SkyTrain sleep, but also taking care of our wayside maintenance. So the equipment and people that take care of the track. So 146 cars, 6 maintenance bays, and then 2 maintenance of ways where our railborne equipment is stored and maintained. And then along with that, some of the sort of like ancillary support. So warehouse, vehicle inspection and cleaning facility, and there will be a wash track as well for washing the trains. We have a wash track here at Edmonds, but it's not sized for the Mark 5. So primarily, the Mark 5s will be washed at OMC4. And that facility will be located between low heat and braid stations, just kind of adjacent to the highway.
Mm-hmm. And this will be, I'm assuming, quite pivotal for the introduction of the brand new SkyTrain, the Mark 5, that people are getting so excited about as well, right?
Yes. That's one of the most exciting things about this facility is that the OMC4 site is built fit for purpose for the new longer trains, whereas this facility at Edmonds, was built and extended over the years, but it was essentially built and designed for the Mark 1 trains from 1984, so 1986, I guess, and so it is not as efficient or effective at maintaining the additional types of fleet that have come on over the last few years.
Yeah, and I think that's important to keep in mind because originally, like when the SkyTrain was built, the original Expo line ran from Waterfront to New Westminster, right? Like that was the line. That was all you really had available to you as a customer, and times have changed. The region has grown a lot. It's going to continue to grow. As part of the growth, we're looking at 2 new extensions. We've got the Broadway subway, and then we've got Surrey Langley. We've already kind of mentioned that. How are these 2 lines, once they're both up and running, how is that going to change the way that Expo and Millennium lines are going to run and look and feel for Metro Vancouver residents?
Well, I think from a customer perspective, we hope to make it as seamless and integrated as possible, and the possibilities for getting on a train in Langley and being in Waterfront, or getting on a train in Langley and going to Lougheed Town Centre for lunch, like those are things that we really hope from a customer perspective are seamless and efficient and really smooth. From a business and operations and maintenance perspective, it will be quite transformative for us. Right. The geographic spread, sometimes our maps aren't all to scale, but the Surrey Langley extension is 16 kilometers. So it's actually quite massive. When we see the advertising pieces, you sort of just like see the snip and it looks like it's out there. But when you actually look at it, Broadway subway is 6 kilometers, the Surrey Langley extension 16 kilometers. Like it's a massive amount of infrastructure that's coming on board for us to maintain and operate going out to Langley. So it will mean that we have to adjust the way that we run our kind of daily operations, our daily business. So where our maintenance crews report, where our operations crews report, all of those things will change as the extensions come on board.
Right. And all of this kind of fits under one umbrella, which is a project that you work on called the SkyTrain expansion program.
So the SkyTrain expansion program is, I think, officially 16 projects. So I think the way that it was originally set up was as these kind of 3 pivotal driving projects, which are the Broadway extension, the Surrey Langley extension, as well as the introduction of the Mark V fleet type. And so those projects being the things that are driving the change within our business, and then the kind of, depending on how you count, 13 or so projects that will support those projects. So that's everything from the maintenance centers that we're discussing here, a new control center, which is also coming on board with this, as we haven't had a new control center since SkyTrain started.
Right.
And so some really big things like those, and then a bunch of other smaller, kind of more invisible behind the scenes systems upgrades to support the kind of quantity of assets and the magnitude of things that will be coming under our purview.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that's a fact that really needs to be underscored a little bit. Like the fact that the control center for SkyTrain has not changed since its original inception in the 80s. And now here we are in the 2020s and it's still using the same rooms. And as the system grows, we need to make sure that the system is flexible and able to catch up with modern technology as well. And so I think that's a huge factor. Like we spoke with your colleague, Ron Wainwright, and his excitement knowing that the future of the control center is going to be increasing in size and capacity and capability as well.
Yeah.
That also means maintenance work when we're growing Broadway subway and when we're growing Surrey Langley, there's going to be disruptions. How do we try and minimize that as much as possible for customers who obviously can't wait for these projects to be completed, but know that it's going to take a little bit of time to get there and a bit of work and a bit of maintenance along the way, right?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things we're talking about. One is just, something like OMC4 now, where we are building a very large infrastructure project to connect to our elevated guideway at a place that the guideway was not designed for. So it will take a long time. We have a lot of work to do to existing infrastructure to integrate new into it. So in a case like that, what we do is we work with our designers and our consultants and we come up with something that we feel is kind of least impactful on the business. So, we sort of sat down and we went through a gamut of scenarios. Should we just try to, do we shut it down? What does it look like if it's completely shut down? Can we do a few weekend shutdowns? And then, we sort of run through a bunch of scenario planning and we landed where we are now, which is single tracking. So always having service from going through. So always having through service and having only one side of the track shut down at a time. Part of that exploratory planning exercise is looking at how many people SkyTrain moves and can we replace this service with a bus? And so we always do that exercise, in order to provide the least disruption to the public. Can we single track or do some sort of planned shutdown that then we're having bus service instead. And something that's amazing about SkyTrain is it moves a lot of people very efficiently. And so, when we're talking about shutting something like that down for a long enough period of time where we can do the work, it's just not feasible to substitute buses. And it's much better to use buses for short-term work, which was the other thing you were talking about. So these long-term works, we try to maintain through service as much as possible. And for short-term works, like whether it be sometimes it's maintenance work like switch replacements, or sometimes it's some station work, like when we remodeled joists, when we were working on the platforms, there were a couple weekends that we did certain single tracking activities. There's lots of different things that drive us to move towards or investigate an alternate service pattern.
Yeah.
But we always think about how many people we need to move and trying to do that work at the least impactful period. So non-peak weekends, times where there aren't as many people on our system.
I think that's really important to share with our listeners, because it's not like you just threw a dart at a board and said, single track, and that's what we're going to do for 2 years. Like you came and arrived at this conclusion after a lot of rigorous testing, simulating, and just getting data and pouring through the numbers and realizing, okay, this is the most efficient service that we can provide where customers won't be impacted nearly as much as if we had done plans B, C, or D.
Absolutely. There's a lot of option review that goes into this work.
That just kind of goes to demonstrate, like, everyone at SkyTrain knows the impact of what a 2-year single tracking is going to look like and feel.
Absolutely. I think our customers, we acknowledge that they're experiencing delays along that path, and we hope they understand the long-term benefits because, we're really excited about, I think that new operations and maintenance center will allow us much better access to the Millennium Line, Broadway subway, as well as all the way to the end of the Evergreen Line than we have right now, frankly. And being able to get our equipment on the line in our non-revenue hours. So while the trains are sleeping, our maintenance crews have a lot of work to do. And that OMC4, the location of that OMC4 is really strategic to support the infrastructure maintenance of our network.
Tassia, so we do obviously take the SkyTrain quite regularly. I know I do. One thing I'm noticing is that there are increasing amounts of construction that takes place along these SkyTrain stations. So maybe you can explain just briefly, like, what's happening there and how that kind of builds into the SkyTrain expansion program.
Yeah, great. Good question. This is a really important customer-facing project for us, which is a series of work. It's a group of work packages that we've put together to support the Mark V work. So the Mark Vs are coming. They're longer trains, and their doors are in different places. And so there's a few things that means for us. We need to make sure that people can exit the stations. We need to make sure that our exit capacity out of the stations meets the capacity that the trains are bringing into the station. So this is our kind of access egress modeling. So we have a project going on now that's a series of upgrades for station safety. So making sure that our exits are right-sized for the number of people that will be coming in on these bigger, longer trains.
Right.
As well as there are some platform tapers that we will be installing in some places to, when you ride in London and you always hear that, like, mind the gap. We'd like there to not be a gap.
Fair enough.
So we're minimizing the gap and therefore the risk for customers boarding and deboarding our trains. So there are a few station safety upgrades that are happening throughout the system. And with the Mark Vs here on site, or a Mark V here on site, I should say, and we anticipate that coming to the final stages of putting that train in service over the next year, we want to make sure that all of the stations it will be running through are safe.
And just to clarify, once OMC4 is online, Mark Vs will sleep there. But the older trains, as they will get phased out over time, they're still going to be sleeping at OMC 1.
You know, it will probably be a mix at each location.
Okay, slumber party.
Yeah. Sure. And the reason it will be that way is because primarily the ridership is such that the capacity that the Mark Vs give us is most beneficial to customers on the Expo line.
Right.
So, at least in the next little while, I don't know exactly what our ridership forecasts are, but we expect to be running the Mark Vs primarily on the Expo line.
Right.
That is our busiest line.
Yeah.
And so while the primary maintenance facility for the Mark Vs will be at OMC4, it will be such that they will probably be sleeping at multiple facilities or coming through here for our vehicle inspection and cleaning, or some of the other items. So, we are doing some modifications to OMC1 to support some work on the Mark Vs because of that, the need for them to be close to the line where they will be working.
Yeah, for sure. So then, Tassia, along those lines, then we can expect the older model trains to also spend more time at OMC4, giving them quicker access to get onto the Millennium Line. So does that make sense?
Yes, correct. Absolutely. I mean, I think we have to be quite deliberate in where we store our trains to optimize our launch sequences and reduction. Because the longer the trains stay out there and need to move around at night, the less time our maintenance crews have to do the work that they really need to do. And so you will see various configurations of trains at all of the facilities. And all of that is a deliberate planning exercise for where they need to be to launch the best possible service.
The SkyTrain expansion program is the result of funding from many years ago, but as our region continues to grow, we'll need more investments to continue to build out our system so that we can accommodate Metro Vancouver's booming population. Simply maintaining the system we have now just won't be enough as we move ahead. That's how we end up with overcrowding. Now, thinking long-term and securing the funding we need to expand is how we're going to grow into the strong and robust transit system that Metro Vancouver needs. New and exciting developments like the OMC4 is an important step towards that goal. My thanks to Tassia Balding and our friends at BCRTC for providing us the opportunity to talk about these exciting programs. My thanks to producer Alan for helping this podcast to expand one episode at a time. And of course, thank you for listening and subscribing. I've been your host, John Jang, and until next time, have a safe trip.